Swan is a lovely 19-year-old girl. She lives a happy life with her father's friends since she lost her whole family. Her only problem in life is her brother, Sumo. One morning, she wakes up to find him asleep in her room. They have a short pillow fight and decide to call their parents, but their parents are often away due to their work. She takes care of the household chores from cleaning to cooking. At school, Sumo is a popular student. He excels in basketball and even leads his team to victory in professional matches. During one of his games, Swan and her friends sit in the audience. Some girls approach her, eager to get closer to her brother. Among them is a popular girl, Lucy. When she sees the girls surrounding Sumo, she can't help but wonder who she is. She approaches Swan, showing little regard for her, and that's when Sumo steps in, asking his sister who's bothering her. Swan points to the girl, and it becomes apparent that she's instantly smitten with him. Overwhelmed by her feelings, she can't find the words to speak and simply walks away from the scene. Sumo and his sister engage in a conversation, and a photographer nearby captures a picture of them. However, there's a hidden story behind him. He's flooded with memories when he sees the girl. One day, when he wasn't feeling well, this girl noticed his discomfort and kindly offered him her lunch, assuring him that it would make him feel better. After eating, her act of kindness deeply touched him, so much that he couldn't forget her face. Swan has a class right now, but she arrives late. The teacher notices her lateness, but decides not to bring it up in front of her classmates to avoid any embarrassment. After class, he takes a moment to talk to her, expressing the need for her to put more effort into assignments and tasks given that it's her last year in high school. He emphasizes the importance of focusing on her studies so that her parents' investment in her education doesn't go to waste. She responds with regret and promises to be more diligent from that point onward. Determined to catch up on her studies, she decides to spend extra time in the classroom. Meanwhile, her brother Sumo becomes concerned about her prolonged absence and gives her a call. She answers, explaining that she'll be late because of a backlog of homework, and then ends the call. A while later, to her surprise, she finds her brother standing beside her. She expresses her gratitude with a warm hug, and they decide to ride their bicycles home together. When they arrive home, he reveals that he's already taken notes for the classes she missed and brought her books and summaries. His help overwhelms her. Back in the classroom, the teacher announces a new seating arrangement rule, sparking excitement among the students. They eagerly queue up outside the classroom, each one choosing a friend they'd like to sit next to. Loi, spotting Sumo alone, rushes to be his seatmate, while Swan selects the photographer, Lei, and asks him to sit next to her. All the students pick their preferred seatmates, creating a buzz of excitement in the room. Once everyone is settled, the teacher enters the classroom and delivers some unexpected news. They will be having an exam that will play a significant role in determining their university admissions. Swan feels a wave of tension wash over her because she hasn't prepared well for the surprise exam. Lei offers comforting words to ease Swan's nerves, assuring her that she has the ability to do well. Swan is relieved when she turns over the question sheet and realizes that the answers are all in the notes Sumo had prepared for his study. Being an idol, Sumo is naturally one of the first to submit his paper. The teacher then asks him to collect the papers once the time is up. Outside the classroom, Lei and Swan spend some time hanging out and chatting. Swan expresses that today has turned into a special day for her because she feels confident about her answers on the exam. Lei suggests that she accept his invitation for lunch. However, just as she receives Lei's lunch invitation, her mobile phone buzzes with a message from her brother, Sumo, who requests her to come home and prepare lunch for him. When she arrives home, Swan is happily surprised to find her parents there. They gather around the table and enjoy a cozy family meal, engaging in conversation. Swan even brings out her journal and reads aloud some dated complaints she had written about her brother, all in good humor. Their father takes the light-hearted complaints seriously and addresses his son, Sumo, emphasizing the need for him to take responsibility for his little sister, especially during her crucial last year in high school. However, The parents' concern has an underlying tone hinting that they might be keeping something from him. At school, all the students receive their exam results, and as expected, Sumu has achieved a perfect score. When it's Swan's turn, the teacher hands her the results with the suggestion to be more careful next time. She feels disheartened because she believes she had performed well in the exam. Lei offers her solace, assuring her that there will be another chance to improve. He encourages her, and they confide in each other about their personal struggles.
Swan shares that
she has faced tough times on her own, while Lei reveals his own challenges, including a critical heart condition that threatens his life. Swan is deeply affected by Lei's story. She expresses her desire to become a skilled doctor so she can help him with his cardiovascular problem. Returning home, she continues to stare at her disappointing results, eventually breaking into
tears.
Sumu enters her room, comforting her with a warm hug. Swan's fear lingers, worried that, while her peers might secure spots in reputable colleges and universities, she may be left behind. The next day in class, Sumu draws the teacher's attention to two of his sister's answers that were actually correct on the answer sheet. The teacher questions the authenticity of her work, asking for proof that she didn't modify the answers. Sumu, in his sister's defense, challenges the teacher's doubts by proposing that Swan is willing to retake the exam to demonstrate her capabilities. The teacher ultimately agrees to conduct another exam with similar questions. However, Swan's confidence wavers. She's anxious that she might not perform as expected. Sumu encourages her, emphasizing the importance of overcoming her doubts and taking the opportunity. To everyone's astonishment, Swan answers the questions on the retake exam and receives a good mark, which is truly unbelievable but a testament to her abilities. On their way home, they engage in a heartfelt conversation. Sumu expresses his belief in her capabilities, but encourages her to harness her intellect, be present, and strengthen her self-confidence. Swan expresses her gratitude to her brother. The next day, to her surprise, Sumu doesn't offer her a ride on his bike. Instead, he takes Lucy with him and leaves Swan to walk to school. In the classroom, they suddenly have a comprehension and composition test. When the teacher approaches Swan, he reprimands her for delaying the submission of her assignment, implying that she might not want to pass the class this year. Swan is at a loss for words, but Lei comes to her defense, stating that he will ensure she isn't disturbed during the test. After the test, they sit together, and Lei helps her understand the challenging parts. They have a good time together. During the physical training class, Swan collapses on the ground due to not having eaten anything since the morning. When Sumu hears the news, he rushes her to the school clinic, where the doctor examines her. The doctor informs Sumu that his sister doesn't take proper care of her nutrition and emphasizes the need to pay more attention to her well-being. Sumu feels jealous. He notices that his sister spends a lot of time with Lei, and his imagination runs wild, picturing them dancing and enjoying life together. He decides to closely watch over his sister and keep track of when and where Lei is tutoring her. He plans to show up with Lucy and sit across from them during their sessions. Whenever Swan asks Lei a question, Sumu will answer it instead. As time passes, Swan becomes increasingly frustrated with Sumu's interference. She wants Lei to be her teacher, not her brother. Sumu abruptly ends the tuition session and takes Swan home, explaining that they've done enough for the day.
At home, Swan
questions her brother about his behavior, asking why he's being so bothersome.
Sumu
responds that he's doing it because he wants to help her. She insists that she needs Lei because he's kind and teaches her effectively. Suddenly, Sumu pretends to have a stomach ache due to hunger, so she prepares a meal for him. She's always had a history of sleepwalking, so Sumu sleeps in her room to prevent any accidents. The next day at school, Swan and Lei have their usual hangout and conversation. Meanwhile, Sumu is summoned to his teacher's office, where he receives the exciting news of his admission to a prestigious university in the program of his choice. However, Sumu surprises his teacher by saying that he doesn't want to go far from his family. He has a strong determination to take charge in his household. During class, One of her classmates suggests that the school is holding a talent competition and Swan can participate. However, the classmate advises her not to choose dancing or singing because, in his opinion, she isn't pretty enough for those competitions. Sumu overhears the unkind comments made by the classmate and doesn't tolerate it. He gives the boy a stern, freezing glare that leaves him speechless and tells him to leave. Another boy follows suit, and Sumu sends him away as well. He then emphasizes to Swan that she must not allow anyone to bully her and reminds her that he's her protector and someone she can rely on. During lunchtime, the siblings join Sumu's friend, Kin, for a meal.
Swan is already attracted to
Kin, and she asks him if he plans to participate in the school competition.
Kin responds that he
will definitely participate and encourages Swan to join as well, expressing his confidence in her abilities. Swan is thrilled by his compliment. Back at home, she begins training her singing voice, which prompts memories of the fable of the crow and the peacock.
Sumu contemplates
escaping, but he realizes that he has nowhere to go. Given the delicious meals at home, he decides to head to Swan's room instead, commenting that she should shove her books down her throat. She persists with her practice, but doesn't achieve the desired results. Next, she turns to sketching and shows her drawing to Sumu. He scrutinizes the drawing, critiquing her brush strokes, and humorously suggests that if she drew a swine and claimed it as her self-portrait, he would believe her. This remark leads to Swan pushing him out of her room, leaving her in a state of frustration. The next day at school, Sunan, feeling frustrated, retreats to the bathroom to contemplate what she's truly good at. It's the one place where Sumu can't follow her. There, she's discovered by Lucy, who asks why she's alone. Sunan explains her situation, and Lucy suggests that they find a way to participate in the school competition. Sunan wonders what they could do, and Lucy proposes public speaking with a musical background. At the teacher's office, Sunan expresses her interest in participating, but the teacher points out her low grades and suggests that she'll likely fail if she joins. Sumu, appearing at the right moment, confidently declares that he'll train her during her spare time and ensure her success. The teacher approves her participation. When Sumu and Lucy later meet, he asks about the type of speech they plan to present. Lucy reassures him that they are capable of handling everything and that he doesn't need to worry. However, Sumu's face suddenly contorts in pain, and he leaves the table. Lucy expresses concern and takes him home. There, Sunan sees her brother in pain and tends to him, placing cooling damp compresses on his forehead as she notices his high fever. She sleeps by his side. The next morning, Sumu wakes up to find Sunan beside him, and he experiences a comforting feeling with her close presence. Sunan eventually gets up and prepares for school and her training, but she can't bring herself to leave her sick brother alone at home. She stays to cook and take care of him. Later, Lucy visits, and Sumu's condition improves. The girls commence their training for the competition. While Sumu is recovering, he spends his time playing on the PlayStation. Lucy takes the opportunity to have a candid conversation with Sunan. She asks if there's a specific reason for her participation in the competition, suggesting that there might be an underlying motive. Sunan honestly admits that her main goal is to impress Kin and capture his attention. At school, the girls head to their practice spot. However, an accidental encounter between Lucy and another girl leads to a tense moment. Lucy, with her arrogant and snobbish demeanor, doesn't apologize, but instead gives the other girl resentful looks. It's Sunan who steps in and apologizes on Lucy's behalf, diffusing the situation. The new girl isn't one to back down either, and when Kin arrives, he strikes up a conversation with her. It becomes evident that this new girl is Kin's friend, Ong. Sunan can't help but feel a bit sad, unsure of her role in Kin's life. She and Lucy decide to leave, but Ong calls them over and comments that she wasn't expecting Sumu's sister to be as slow as Sunan. She advises Sunan that her competition presentation should be kept brief for memorization purposes, warning that it could turn into a comedy. Otherwise, Sumu arrives just in time to defend his sister and put a stop to Ong making fun of her. After they leave, Sumu shares that he's here to help in any way he can. He provides her with medicine to strengthen her throat, which excites Sunan. They then begin their practice. Meanwhile, Somu is at home feeling unwell. When Sunan returns, she brings food with her and prepares a meal for her brother. However, upon entering his room, she finds him fast asleep, not wanting to disturb his peaceful slumber, especially since he can't tease her, as usual when he's awake. She decides to occupy herself by browsing through his school books. As Sunan goes through her brother's school books, she discovers that he has prepared summaries and notes for her to study. He dedicated the entire night to this task, even dividing her notes into subsections to make her learning process easier. It's a touching gesture, highlighting what a big brother does for his little sister. That night, as she rehearses her part of the speech, she thinks of Lei, realizing that she hasn't seen him in days. Concerned, she decides to check on him and gives him a call. However, she's shocked to hear Lei's dad on the other end of the line, informing her that he's in the ICU at the hospital. Terrified, she rushes out to visit him, but Sumo insists that it's late. She's determined and insists on going because Lei has stood by her side and helped her in a way nobody else could. Under the surge of her emotional plea, Sumo finally agrees and takes her on his bicycle to the hospital. When they arrive at the hospital, Sunan finds Lei's father with a mournful expression. She approaches him to offer solace, and he recognizes her as Sunan, his son's favorite friend. He mentions how he often mumbles her name. Sunan goes to Lei's room and peeks in through the door window, feeling sad and depressed, wondering why it seems like anything she wants or loves slips through her fingers. Sumo tries to comfort her by bringing something for her to eat, but she's lost her appetite. All she wants is for Lei to recover and be alive. Lei slowly opens his eyes, and from behind the closed door, Sunan and Sumo see him regain consciousness. Sunan enters the room while Sumo goes to speak with the doctor to inquire about his health condition. Sunan tells Lei that he should wait until she becomes a doctor so she can treat him. He responds by assuring her that he will wait no matter what and that she is the one who will cure him. After visiting Lei and feeling content about his recovery, Sunan continues practicing for her role in the school's competition. She puts in a lot of effort to prepare and even chooses an appropriate outfit. However, Sumo dashes her self-confidence faltered when Sumo insisted that she wear the school uniform instead. Reluctantly, she obeys his advice. On the day of the competition, Sunan finds herself wearing the school uniform while all the other girls are dressed in dresses. However, the supervisor reminds them that it's the school's anniversary and everyone must wear the school uniform. Deep down, Sunan silently thanks Sumo for looking out for her. As the competition begins, Sunan's adrenaline levels soar. She's determined to win. Sumo comes to encourage her, but then a mild setback occurs. She forgets her lines. Panicking, Sumo rushes to get her notes, but the supervisor informs them that it's their turn to perform on stage. Sunan stands with a blank mind, unsure of what to say. The students in the audience start whispering. In a moment of courage, Sunan improvises her own story on the spot. Her talent shines through, and she manages to capture the attention of the audience despite the initial hiccup. Sumo watches with pride as Sunan captures the audience with her improvised story, and when she finishes, the audience applauds her efforts. It's an unforgettable moment for both of them. Afterward, Sunan goes to the teacher to inquire about her grades from the previous semesters, only to find out that she has failed. At home, Sumo attempts to comfort her, but she's in no mood to hear anything, so she kicks him out of her room. Alone in her thoughts, she contemplates her academic situation. The next day, King congratulates them on their outstanding performance on stage, boosting Sunan's confidence. Her initial goal was to attract his attention, and it appears she succeeded. However, a group of students passing by taunt Sunan for her failures. Lucy comes to her defense, labeling the taunters as the ones who can't comprehend the extent of Sunan's talent. She challenges Sunan to show them her grades to silence them. In a hushed voice, Sunan advises Lucy not to be too confident about her own grades and suggests that it's best to keep quiet to save face. Back at home, Sumo reassures his sister that just as he believes nothing is impossible, she should also believe in herself. To prove that, he heads to the kitchen and attempts to cook a
Meal.
He wants Sunan to taste his creation, but she's not in the mood to eat right now. In fact, it's a good thing she didn't eat, because Sumo's cooking is often seen as a culinary adventure, best embarked upon with an ambulance ready nearby. Meanwhile, Sunan checks in on her friend Lei, who has news for her. One piece of news is bad, and the other is good. She asks him to start with the good news, and he shares that he's found a doctor in the United States who can treat his illness. When Sunan asks Lei about the bad news, he informs her that he won't be able to see her in person anymore, but they can still communicate via video calls. Despite the sadness of this news, Lei congratulates her on her competition performance and tells her that her encouragement has given him the strength to fight for his life. He shows her a video revealing that it was Sumo who recorded and sent it to motivate him. Grateful for her brother's thoughtfulness, Sunan thanks him for always being considerate. Later in her room, she contemplates what kind of gift to give him before saying goodbye to Lei. The idea of an electronic whiteboard comes to mind, but when she researches its price, she realizes it's quite expensive. At school, Sunan discusses the gift idea with Lucy, who offers to help with the money. Sunan, however, hesitates to accept her friend's money. As they talk, a passerby hands Sunan a flyer with a job advertisement. It seems like an opportunity to earn the money she needs for the gift. She learns that she can collect half the price of the gift for every 4 hours she works.
Lucy is
skeptical about the job offer and advises her not to apply for it as it seems suspicious. However, Sunan is determined to collect the money for her gift and chooses to ignore her friends' concerns. She lies to Sumo, saying she's going to study with Lei as she prepares for the job. Sunan reluctantly starts her job at the photography studio, and despite her initial reservations, she works the full 8 hours. At the end of her shift, she's paid the full amount of money for her
work.
As she's leaving, the man suggests they go to a studio on the upper floor together, but she declines and heads home. Back at home, Sumo becomes increasingly worried because his sister has been away for 8 hours. He calls Lucy to inquire about Sunan's whereabouts, but Lucy says that Sunan didn't come to her, though she knows where she is. Concerned, Sumo goes to the photography studio, only to find it closed. He discovers Sunan's medal on the ground, filling him with a sense of foreboding. They search for her everywhere, but can't locate her. Meanwhile, Sunan takes a cab home.
Do it.
To her fear of enclosed spaces, she faints during the ride. When she regains consciousness, she sends a message to Sumo revealing her location. He rushes to pick her up and brings her back home. Sunan, exhausted from her long day, expresses her desire to be alone when she gets home. It's clear that the experience has taken a toll on her. The next day, Sunan apologizes to Sumo and assures him that she won't repeat what she did. He forgives her and emphasizes that her well-being is what matters most to him. As the semester comes to an end, the results of their hard work are revealed. Sumo, as expected, achieves the highest marks and receives scholarship offers from many universities. Sunan, on the other hand, has passed her exams with significantly improved grades. The siblings discuss the happy news, and Sunan expresses her sadness about him leaving for university. However, deep down, she's also relieved. Sunan realizes that she won't have to deal with Sumo's annoyance anymore. The family celebrates their double good news and emphasizes that Sunan should continue working hard to prepare for the medical school admissions pretest. The day of the medical school exam arrives and Sunan enrolls. To her delight, she receives the results on the same day. She passes the exam, making her dream of becoming a doctor come true. Sumo, who has received a prestigious scholarship, takes Sunan to her dormitory at the medical
school.
While waiting in line to register for their respective programs, Sunan registers her information, mentioning that her brother is only there to drop her off. However, to her surprise, Sumo registers for the same college. This leaves Sunan feeling frustrated because she fears that she'll once again be surrounded by girls seeking her brother's attention, just as it happened in high school. When Sunan reaches the university residence, She's told that her name isn't on the list and that perhaps she didn't submit her application. She starts to realize what's happened. Somo has orchestrated this situation for her. Outside, she meets Somo, who provides her with an address
and a key.
Upon arriving at the address, she discovers a beautiful and spacious apartment. However, she only wanted independence and didn't want to be reliant on her brother's persona. She didn't want to be seen through the lens of being Somo's sister. The next day, while attending one of Somo's matches, he asks his sister to bring him some water during the break. Since she has a class, Lucy brings the water instead. On her way to class, Sunan accidentally bumps into a beautiful woman named Mila and apologizes to her. Somo comes to check on his sister during this encounter. After their brief introduction, Somo and Mila go their separate ways, with Mila trying to build a connection with Somo, but he remains uninterested. Meanwhile, Sunan's friends inquire about Somo, who is busy studying in the library. While Lucy and Sunan are on their way to class, they discover a cat trapped in a bicycle and decide to rescue it. They take the injured cat to a veterinarian for treatment, and after it heals, Sunan decides to bring it home, knowing that cats are Somo's nightmare. She sees this as an opportunity for a little playful revenge and tries to tease him with the cat. Later that night, Lucy visits them at home, and Somo retreats to his room to browse the internet. There, he comes across a modified video that portrays the girls as torturing the cat. The video receives negative responses on social media, with people making harsh comments without knowing the truth. The girls realize they need to rectify the situation. Somo advises his sister not to go to school in the coming days, but she insists on facing society despite the fabricated story. She decides to go to school, where she encounters the expected judgment from people. However, Mila doesn't believe the video and expresses her belief in their innocence. Somo, determined to prove their innocence, suggests they create a video in which Lucy explains what really happened and asserts that the viral video is fake and unreal. But people don't believe them anymore. Then, Somo comes up with another idea. They decide to recreate the scene where they rescued the cat and film it. They upload the new video online, hoping that viewers will now understand the
truth.
Thankfully, the video helps people realize what actually happened. A restaurant owner reaches out to them and offers to adopt the cat. They agree and take the cat to its new home at the restaurant. Sunan notices Mila at the restaurant, and they have a brief conversation. After Mila leaves, Somo expresses his concerns to Sunan and suggests being cautious around Mila because something about her doesn't sit right with him. At university, Somo is selected as a supervisor for the sports team due to his determination and commitment to success. However, this decision makes some of the team members, including the coach's son, hostile toward him. Meanwhile, Sunan applies for a job to earn some money. She continues to excel in her studies, and her professors are pleased with her progress. One of her professors praises her achievements and encourages her to keep up the good work. Lucy informs Sunan that Somo is in trouble, and she rushes out to help him. Somo is facing problems with the team at the sports hall, as they don't accept him as their supervisor, leading to a physical altercation. The administration intervenes and imposes penalties on those responsible for the conflict. The next day, a university-level baseball tournament takes place, and Lucy and Sunan attend. Mila's brother also joins to watch the matches, and it appears he becomes interested in Sunan. As the team captain, Somo establishes a specific plan for their success. They diligently follow the plan and achieve victory in the match. His teammates offer their apologies, recognizing his abilities, and they take pride in his leadership. Furthermore, Mila approaches Somo, presenting him with roses to celebrate his impressive victory. However, true to his usual self, he pays no heed to her presence. Instead, he heads towards Lucy and Sunan. Undeterred, Mila persistently pursues him, extending an invitation for dinner, which he declines. One can certainly learn a lesson in persistence from this determined girl. At home, Sunan receives a positive response regarding a job opportunity. The company expresses interest in interviewing her, and her excitement bubbles over as she hugs Somo. The following day, upon arriving at the company, she finds herself being interviewed by Mila's brother, Miku. Though Sunan remains unaware of his connection to Mila, Mika mentions that he has reviewed her CV and intends to hire her as his secretary. He emphasizes the condition that she must accompany him to his workplace with 2 additional stipulations. She must strictly adhere to her work hours, and she should refrain from asking questions or making inquiries. Sunan agrees to these terms, and the job becomes hers. Later, she crosses paths with Sumu and Luzi outside. She shares the news that she has secured the job with an attractive salary. However, Sumu is skeptical, wondering how a newcomer with limited experience could land such an opportunity.
He decides to take her to the
supermarket. After searching for her favorite ice cream, Sumu grows tired and suggests that she can make her way home on her own. He departs, leaving her alone. Mila then enters and extends an invitation to her birthday party. Sunan responds that she doesn't know any of Mila's friends, prompting Mila to reassure her that knowing her is sufficient. Just then, Luzi arrives and offers to accompany her to the party, leading to an invitation for Luzi as well. At night, the 2 girls prepare themselves for the party and head over to the event. As the party comes to a close, Sunan presents Mila with a gift. In response, Mila asks her to accompany her to a secluded place where she wants to share something important.
She plays a
recording for Sunan, revealing a painful truth about her life. In the recording, Sumu's parents discuss Sunan's biological parents, revealing that they were responsible for their deaths. Mila then leads her outside and proceeds to get herself intoxicated. Sumu learns about the distressing situation and rushes to the party to retrieve them. He leaves a brief message for Mila, warning her to be prepared for the consequences of her actions.
Upon
arriving home, Sunan confronts her brother about the devastating revelation. She expresses her anguish, feeling that their kindness over the years was merely out of pity. She accuses them of being responsible for the death of her biological parents. Although her brother attempts to console her, she reaches a breaking point and decides to leave the house. She reflects on her memories with them, deepening her pain, and turns to alcohol to numb the anguish. In her state of despair and vulnerability, 2 young men approach her, viewing her as an easy target for assault and rape. They attempt to coerce her, but just in time, Sumu arrives to rescue her. A confrontation ensues, and Sumu ends up on the ground. However, another man intervenes, threatening to call the police, causing the assailants to flee. When Sunan regains consciousness, she finds Sumu beside her. She doesn't wake him or say anything, choosing instead to leave him behind and seek solace in solitude. She calls El, and, upon hearing his voice, she breaks down in tears. Amidst her tears, Sunan attempts to speak, but he fails to recognize any of her words. He hangs up abruptly when his doctor enters the room and delivers the grim news that his condition cannot be addressed through the current treatment plan. He's in the late stages of his disease and urgently requires a heart transplant. The weight of these words leaves him speechless, and the future remains uncertain for him. As for Sunan and Sumu, their fates and the unfolding events will be revealed in the coming episodes as their lives are intertwined with El's and the challenges they face together.